Welcome back to the irregularly scheduled programming. Today we're talking about capitalism versus socialism. Yet another false dialectic. So, maybe you've noticed that I never talk about being red pilled or blue pilled or the blue or the red pill. None of that stuff, right? And that's because whether you take in the red pill or the blue pill, ultimately you're getting drugged up and seeing things. Why can't you just see reality for what it is without any drug? Right? Something that alters your consciousness. Shouldn't you be here, present? I mean, the blue pill, red pill, it's really just another version of the left right paradigm, right? Even the fucking color scheme is the same, for crying out loud. All the red pilled people are, conservative and pro Trump and they know what's up. And the blue pilled people are, normies, creeps, people that watch too much TV, believe everything they hear, so on and so forth, right? Democrats versus Republicans, blue versus red. Do you really think those two brothers who convinced themselves that they could become two sisters somehow, you think they really had your best interest in mind and were there to help you see the world for what it actually is? Or do you think perhaps they were doing a little bit of gatekeeping over there with this red pill, blue pill? False dialectic, right? Now, I suppose Matrix opened a lot of people's eyes, but did it really? Did it really set them on the right path? What's wrong with my camera? Right? In my opinion, it grabbed the attention of the people questioning this world, looking into it, and it distracted them, it satisfied them, it did what classic gatekeeping does, right? Told you some truth, but not the real truth. Didn't really provide you with any solutions. It just kind of told you, well, this is how it is, right? In a way, normalizing the fact that we're all slaves to a degree. Some people more than others, right? In my opinion, the Matrix was really just I guess for some people an allegory, but for me, just really a hyperbolized analogy of where we find ourselves and maybe perhaps the reality where we're headed. But this whole blue pill, red pill stuff, no offense to anybody, but that's for normies. That's for people who don't really think for themselves, don't really question what's going on. Maybe at some point they were looking for answers, but it seems like they got to a point where they figured it all out and, well, maybe they're happy with that for whatever it's worth. To me, it's just a whole bunch of corny bullshit, perpetuation of the left-right paradigm, us versus them, the people who are awake versus the people who are merely woke. But ultimately, none of them are really looking outside of the box and They're all drugged up, right? Whatever pill you decided to take, I mean, ultimately, it's all big pharma, right? So, capitalism versus socialism is just another part of this same dialectic, right? The blue versus red, the left versus the right. When in reality, the answer is really somewhere in the middle, and it has nothing to do with any isms, right? Why can't it just be? Why does someone from up top who wrote a book or two or coined an ism or two, why do they have to dictate how we live our lives? Shouldn't it be up to each and every one of us to decide? But ultimately, whether you got these socialists or capitalists, ultimately what most of these people are for is an authoritarian government that imposes this or that rule. And in my opinion, socialism is to communism what capitalism is to fascism. Ultimately what that leads to, what both of these ideologies lead to, because they were designed by these people and given to you, slave, is the control of the many by the few. With, communism, supposedly some kind of central government controlling all the businesses and corporations, versus fascism, the corporations controlling the government. But when you really understand how this world works and the fact that a government is just another corporation, ultimately this is corporate rule. Whether you're on the left or the right, whether you're blue or you're right or red, whether you're this so-called capitalist or socialist, ultimately what you're begging for is some sort of an authoritarian government where the few rule the many, right? Corporate government with us as the slaves, the workers, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to. So it's a false dialectic, and it's a Hegelian dialectic, right? Action, reaction, in the middle they shall meet, right? This side or that side ultimately leading you down the same fucking path. Authoritarian government. Now, I've talked about socialism in the past a little bit, how there are virtues to this. I don't see why it needs to be named anything, why it can't just be without a certain label, but this is what it is, this is how people understand it, so, let's just call it that. Socialism, I mean, there's virtue in socialistic measures, right? I keep going back to this example, but something like a food co-op in San Francisco where, all the workers in this grocery store essentially are part owners of the business, and where, a cashier doesn't make that much less money than the manager, and a cashier has some managerial duties also, and once in a while you'll see the manager working the cash register and bagging groceries too, right? What's wrong with that? Now, I don't know if that's pure socialism, but, what the fuck does that mean anyway, right? It's kind of a more socialistic measure, if you will. Or another example I always go back to is if the boss at your job decided to profit share with all of you, right? Who would say no to that, right? Definitely not all the staunch capitalists, right? Or people who staunchly talk about capitalism and pay no or don't participate in the capitalist economy other than as consumers, right? I mean, talk about useful idiots. By that same token, this thing they call capitalism, however the fuck you define it, I mean, has its virtues too, right? Whether you're talking about the free market, which doesn't really exist. Well, that's great if it did, right? Or you're talking about the fact that I own something that I can sell to you and I could amass a certain amount of capital, which will allow me to prosper and hopefully will allow everybody around me to benefit from that as well, right? Well, I mean, what's wrong with that, right? Seems all right. But ultimately, anytime you give a little bit of credit to socialism, you're immediately labeled a commie, right? If you talk about, if you're pro-capitalism or any facet thereof, you know, some people on the other side will attack you as completely wrong and this and that, and this sort of nonsense just goes on and on and on and on, when in reality, the best system is definitely, in my opinion at least, some kind of a hybrid that takes the best parts of a variety of systems, and they don't even have to be systems. It's just, if whatever we decide to do, if it works for the greatest amount of us, right, or all of us, better yet, then let's do it. Why do we have to name it something or put it in this box and say it comes with all these other strings attached? Why can't it just be that, right? Why can't you have a system that's socialist and capitalist at the same time? Surely they exist. Again, a San Francisco food co-op or food store, grocery store co-op is a perfect example of that, right? More of a hybrid, I guess. But the problem with socialism, well, not only is it just like demonized by the people on the right, and the same goes for capitalism being demonized by the people on the left, but no one really seems to know what it means exactly, and I'm not saying that I do, but if I had to draw the very basic distinction between capitalism as I understand it and socialism, it's, you know, shared property versus private property. Something we own together, all of us, and something that we own as individuals, and that's it, right? Isn't that the world we live in? But this idea of pure capitalism, where everything is private property, I mean, well, that means no free speech, right? Obviously. I've talked about this so many times. So you can't have free speech in that system. Well, if your overlords give it to you, well, then you got it. But if they gave it to you, that means they could take it away. So do you really have free speech? No. And we're finding this out right now, right? But all the staunch capitalists will say, that wasn't real capitalism. This is not real capitalism. Well, I mean, is it not? This is why I'm not too, I can't be fucked with all these different labels too much, because in the end they're all meaningless. Not completely, but they don't really get us anywhere. They just keep us bickering. So if you could see virtue in both systems, right? Both ideologies, whatever, why can't you have a system that takes advantage of all the virtues and dumps all the disadvantages of the systems, right? And again, this is the world we live in. Every single one of us would like to be able to own something that they don't have to, if they don't want to, share with anybody else, right? I think that's a basic human right, right? But at the same time, who owns the planet? Who owns the soil, the dirt, the land? Who owns it? Don't we all? You show me, you show me a deed that somebody has on this planet, and then explain to me how they got it, who gave it to them, right? People talk about capitalism in the New World and how amazing it was. And to a lot of those staunch capitalists, I'm gonna sound like a leftist because they're fucking brainwashed, right? But like, well, all the people, Europeans that came over to the Americas and got all this land, well, where the fuck did they get it from, right? Well, a lot of them just went out in the wilderness where there was nobody, right? Nobody was growing anything. Nobody was pasturing any animals. There were no cities, no houses, no factories, no mines. There was just nothing. Well, no human presence. People weren't using that land for anything. So they settled there and they laid claim to it. It became theirs, right? But a lot of the people that came over from Europe to the Americas, well, they also murdered people that already worked the land, owned the land. It was theirs to do as they pleased with. I'm not saying all of it was or should have been, but if you got a certain plot of land or a certain area that you're using for your survival and to prosper, then that shit's yours, right? That's how it's always been. Before there was money, before there was anything, we were born on this planet and we could use it without anyone's permission, so long as we didn't step on anybody else's toes, right? But then came borders, right? Anyone who pushes for borders, walls, these types of things, has got it all wrong, in my opinion. All wrong. But there was a point when we were born and we could find a piece of land and use that piece of land to sustain us, right? That no longer exists. Nowadays, you gotta buy it from somebody. But if you're born into poverty, how are you ever going to be able to get money to buy enough land to do anything with? And even if you somehow are able to buy some land from somebody, you're not really buying it. You're just renting it from the government, and you got to pay them fucking taxes for it. Okay, if I own this phone that I'm recording on, I know that I do because I'm not paying anybody. I paid them once. I took it, or someone gave it to me, and I don't have to pay anybody diddly squat to keep it, because it's mine. So you don't own your car, you don't own your land, you don't own hardly anything. Maybe the real estate. Doubt that. I even doubt that. That's why you can't dig in the earth for many places in the world without somebody else's permission. You can't dig for and exploit it for its natural resources. And they're making it harder and harder and harder for people to grow food and support themselves like that. And the only reason why they allow that to happen is because, well, they gotta eat too, right? As soon as they figure out a way where they don't have to eat the shit that grows from the earth, you best believe that shit's gonna get hunted down. People who do that are gonna get hunted down. And that's when I go out in a blaze of fucking glory, that's for damn sure. Because I am not living on my fucking knees. I tell you that much. So this unfettered capitalism thing it's insanity. It's fucking insanity. This idea that you could own a piece of land because you say so forever, and then your family owns it and it's yours forever because you say so. It's fucking insane. This idea that you could just own a whole country, a whole fucking continent, the whole planet, or a certain group of people can, is fucking insane. It doesn't make any sense. Those people are enemies of humanity. Those people are enemies of freedom. You should be able to own as much land as you and yours can work it. can use to work, to produce things. Not put borders around all these quote-unquote national parks and all these other places and bar people from entering because it's yours. Are you fucking insane? Who gave you the right to all this stuff? Who did you buy it from? Or did you just steal it piece by piece by piece? Accumulate it, this capital. Because you're fucking greedy and imperialistic. And ultimately, unfettered capitalism is that. It's imperialism. In the end, it's the same shit as communism. It's total fucking control of all the peons by a select group of people. They just divide us with these ideas, so we bicker amongst each other, throwing all these isms around that we don't fully understand ourselves. And they strike deals behind their fucking backs and shake hands laughing at our dumbasses. Like that fucking stage insurrection you had the other day. From within velvet ropes, with the door swung right open by the authorities. Come on in, so long as you stay within these bounds. Because borders and shit. Man, half of those people are probably paid to be there anyway. The fuck out of here, man. Like, that's gonna do anything. Except distract you from doing what really matters or should anyway. So this idea that any one individual can just accumulate capital and own it forever, well, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? Think about it. Think about the logical conclusion of this sick fucking worldview. How will people that are not yet born, right? People who are constantly coming into this world. Once everything is owned by somebody, what chance do these people have to make money, to be able to buy land and own land? When in order to be able to make money, significant amounts of money, you need fucking land in the first place. Whether you want to build a fucking Tesla factory or grow some food, raise some animals, or have a fucking parking lot. You need land to make money so you could acquire land. So the people that own the most land, they can't lose that game unless they just give all the land away, which they will never do. How the more control these capitalists from within this unfettered capitalist system, the more control they have of all the land. They already own all the land, okay? Just about. To gain control of it, they're going to need, 5G for starters. Complete and utter control grid, right? To be able to administer and manage all this land, which will entail putting up walls and barriers and fences and keeping us out, basically. But once we get to a point of complete and utter control, right? Because a select group of capitalists will own everything. Everything will be, it already is their private property, but they're going to be able to enforce these rules, basically, by means of technology, where you can't get away with the shit that people are getting away with right now. And they have to let you get away with it because they can't control everybody just yet. But once we get to a point where all the capitalists not only own all the land as they already do, but are able to actually make you feel it, make you understand it, like they're slowly doing it, right? With the fact that free speech is basically, on its way out because every single piece of fucking land is owned. Everything is a business. Everything is private. Everything's private property because capitalism. How are kids, people born into this world, how will they ever have a chance to be anything in life when they can't access that which was given to us by a power so much higher than all these cocksuckers who think they're all powerful. But that's capitalism for you. That is the logical conclusion of capitalism. Private fucking property. But that doesn't mean that I'm against private property. No, but I mean, what gives you the right to own any more land than you can with your own fucking hands? Exploit. And if you gotta hire people to help you exploit that land, okay? Or hire people to build machines to help you exploit that land, you better start treating them as fucking co-owners, because they're working it too. And you better break them off a nice little piece of the profits, right? Oh, but that's socialism. Well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you like where I think the happy medium is, where the two shall meet, right? How much capitalism, if you want to call it that, and how much socialism we should have. Alls I know is that taking any one of these points of view to the extreme, which is the fucking point in the first place, is complete and utter fucking slavery for all of us. Basically. So this whole like blue pill, red pill, that's got to be the corniest fucking shit I've ever heard, man. One group of Dunning-Krugers telling another group of Dunning-Krugers how fucking dumb everybody is. And in a way, they're right. Because ultimately, they're all fucking themselves. Begging for this or that overlord to hold sway and power over them. Tell them what to do. Man, this fucking weed ain't shit. Some fucking trash. Anyway, those are my thoughts and views on capitalism and socialism. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit used to divide people and make you think like you're fighting for good when ultimately you're not. And I'm sure a lot of people will tell me, oh, you don't understand capitalism, you don't understand socialism, that wasn't real capitalism, that wasn't real socialism, communism. I don't give a fuck about any of these isms, man. Just leave people the fuck alone, man. If I decide to just take my ass on over there where there's nobody, and no one's doing anything there, and I decide to start doing something there, that shit is mine, okay? It's not yours, it's not anybody else's, it's mine. And if a whole bunch of other people want to collect their shiny little coins and pretty electronics, and they want to live in 6 different fucking houses 2 months out of the year on all the different continents, I don't give a shit about any of that. Just leave me the fuck alone, right? Let me do my thing. Let me be a free human being just as my ancestors were. And if I run into some other people and I want to do business with them because capitalism and shit, well, that's none of your fucking business either, is it? Whatever currency or not we decide to use to facilitate whatever transaction we may engage in. So I'm not interested in any of these fucking isms. None of it really gets my juices flowing, if you know what I'm saying, right? I just feel like I know what's right and what's wrong. And slavery, authoritarianism, total control, all of those things are probably the latter. Do I have anything else to say in closing? No, not really. I'm probably wrong about everything, and you know, everybody else is right. Thanks for watching.